Kakadosh Boker or Beki'im BaHalacha 7, Siman Kuf Samechet 168. This is day 10, page 21. Halacha Kaf 21. Yeah, so page 21 and Halacha 21. Okay. So today we're going to speak about what about sweet halot ki'ilu. Again, remember we switched to the dough, which means we went from the filling and we now went into the dough. Okay, and now the question is if it's not going to be noticeable, the flavoring. Okay, so it says like this: if bread dough is kneaded with fruit juice, yeah, but its flavor is not noticeable, so the proper blessing is still going to be amotzi lech min haaretz, and this is true also for Sephardic Jews and also for Ashkenazic Jews.
Yeah. Only for the Middot in France, they said fruit juice.
Yeah, but you don't taste it. So let's see. Number 232. In Israel, the major bakeries produce these rolls in mass. The dough is mixed with fruit juice and a bit of water. This being the case, it would seem that even the Ramah should agree that the proper blessing is bonim and mizunot, since he ruled that if the dough is kneaded with more honey than water, so then the proper blessing is mizunot. You remember we brought a machloke between the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. According to the Shulchan Aruch, it was you could have majority water, but as long as it tastes sweet, it's okay. So as if you have honey, sugar, this, eggs, this, oil, mizunot. According to the Ramah, he says, no. You need the majority of what's the texture of that is not just the majority water. If it's majority water, it's a problem. So here he says, even according to the Ramah, it should be mizunot. Of course, any dough containing that much honey is going to be noticeably sweet. In this case, however, the fruit juice does not really affect the taste of the dough very much. Therefore, one may not say mizunot to eat these rolls. One must say hamotzi according to the Maran and according to the Ramah.
It's based on the taste.
Yes, exactly. It's based on the taste. Meaning you have to taste it and you're going to tell me is it sweet. Now the question is though, what is sweet? Sweet means that you actually taste the sweetness, or it tastes different than regular bread. That's going to be a big machloket there, because at the end of the day, it's maybe you're going to tell me, listen, it's not sweet, but you're going to tell me, yeah, but it doesn't taste like regular bread. You taste regular bread. It's a bread. This is not. So let's see. Rosh Hashanah, he comes and he says that as long as the majority of the liquid needed in the dough is fruit juice, the product is a mizunot, right? The response of Minchat Yitzchak agreed with this ruling. So you've got the Minchat Yitzchak, Rav Yitzchak Weiss, and you have the Rosh Hashanah. They both come and they say, no. Majority is fruit juice, automatically mizunot. I don't care about the taste. Majority fruit juice, mizunot. The response of Shevet HaLevi, there's Rav Vozner, however, he disagreed with this ruling. He concludes the discussion saying that one should avoid eating these rolls, but one has no right to forcefully protest against those who rely upon the Dat Torah. So he comes and he says, listen, technically speaking, it's really incorrect, but you can't really, rebuke those that they're going to be lenient and say mizunot on these types of breads. That's what the Rav Vozner says, the Shevet HaLevi. Okay?
Egg. Yeah. When you put eggs, like egg halal, mizunot.
Again, if it tastes sweet or it tastes different, we're going to speak about sweet, different. Yeah, let's speak about that. The Birkat Hashem, right? He comes and he says,
bread for the water and flour. Yeah.
Yes, water and flour. Yeah, but if it's going to be sweet, so then no. Now the question is, what is sweet? That's the question. What is considered sweet? A woman comes and she puts a little bit of sugar, makes a mizunot. Majority of times, no.
No, if you don't.
Especially because she also puts salt. So she puts salt and then she puts a little bit of sugar. Usually won't make it mizunot. But if she starts putting honey and also sugar, and there's the oil and the eggs, and that's already something. We're not talking about eggs just on the top when you put the sesame seeds. We're talking about the eggs in actual, you understand? So then that's something different. The Birkat Hashem, he discusses at length the practice of the bakeries in Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak of baking rolls made out of dough kneaded with raisin wine. Right? So he says the bakeries advertise these rolls as mizunot and instructs their customers, whether Ashkenazi or Sfaradim, to say mizunot. These instructions are encouraged by the Edah Haradit, Rav Landau, chief rabbi of Bnei Brak. He says the Birkat Hashem demonstrated for many Achronim this is incorrect, and the correct blessing is Amotzi, both Sephardic and Ashkenazic. This, he insists, is the opinion of Maran, in contrast to the ruling of the Dat Torah. He cites Rabbi Mazuz, right, who concurred with this argument and shows that this is clear from Maran's words in the Bet Yosef. There's likewise the ruling of the Or Letzion and the Rishon Letzion. The Halacha Brura discusses this as well and comes to the same conclusion. So you've got Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, you got Rav Mazuz, you got Rav Vadi Yosef, you got the Halacha Brura, Rav David Yosef. Listen, it's Rav Moshe Levi, right? Rav Moshe Lewi, yeah, Tunisian, yeah. So you got they all say no. Therefore, the correct blessing of mizunot rolls or banz is amotzi, unless the sweetness is readily noticeable when eating them. If it is, then it becomes Urim in Mizunot for Sephardic Jews. But for Ashkenazic Jews, it's still Hamotzi in any case. The Edah Charedit apparently relies upon the ruling of their late leader, the author of the Minchat Yitzchak. Right? But it is best not to rely upon that ruling. Meaning like this. The Edah Charedit, the Badatz, they went like their Av Bedin. Their Av Bedin, the previous leader, was Yitzchak Weiss, the Minchat Yitzchak. So because of that, since he was the one that held in Shitat Maran and the Ramah, that the second of the majority is fruit juice, Gamarnu, that's it, it's Mizunot. I don't care about taste, it's Mizunot. So therefore, that's how they rely upon. But really, Be'emet, we don't rely upon that. So because of that, they're saying, well, why should we say Mizunot on these type of things? So it's actually going to be a problem. We did speak about it. It was, I think, where do we speak about it? Sweet and not sweet. We just spoke about it.
No, but what's your
Here it is. How sweet is sweet? What?
No, it's like even if there is 51% of red apple juice, and you don't taste the sweetness.
It's still going to be Amotzi.
For who?
For the Sfaradim and Ashkenazim.
Yeah. Now you have a machloket. Some said no.
Yes, you've got the Minchat Yitzchak and Rav Shalom Shodron. They want to say it's Mizonot.
And in Bracha Harona, you're going to say Amotzi. It's not a problem. It's not better to say.
Bracha Harona, you're going to say what? Bracha Rishona, you mean?
No.
Right.
If you follow those people, they say no, it's still Amotzi. It's still Mizonot.
Right.
You say no, I'm going to follow Rabbi. Yeah. I'm going to say Birkat Hamazon. Cannot be Bracha Birkat Hamazon. Because you have opinion that says Mizonot.
So you're basically, but you could also ask that on the first bracha as well. No, why don't you just say Saveh Bracha Lakel and say Mizonot instead of Amotzi?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So the reason why we don't do that is because when this is Shitat Maran, so therefore we're not going to do that. And since the majority of the Rishonim, they come and they say that this is the Psak Halacha, so we don't just say so. Meaning, I'm always going to find somebody that's going to say something is Mizonot. But not because of that, I'm going to say, you know what, I found one Rishon or I found one opinion that says it, that's it. Everything becomes now Saveh Bracha Lakel. Right? We don't do that. And that's why since they're all coming and saying that Shitat Maran is all going to be Amotzi, right? Look how many you had. You have Rav Moshe Levi, Rav Mazuz, Rav Ovadia, Rav Ben Zion Bashol, Rav David Yosef. They all come and they say, no, that has to be...
It's in the taste.
Yeah, it's in the taste. It's not just the majority, right? So therefore that's it. That's how we follow. Which is that Shitat Maran. You understand? So he comes and he says... He doesn't actually speak about it. We have to find out. That's a very good question. I remember that we once spoke about it, about what happens if you is it enough that you have to taste that it's sweet, or that you have to taste that it's different? Because like what you said, if you're going to add eggs and oil, you're not going to tell me that it's sweet, because eggs is not sweet and oil is not sweet, but it tastes different. Yes, 100%. You understand? So I don't know. We have to find. I don't know if they're actually going to speak about it. If not, we would have to look it up. But we would have to find out.
The first thing they have, like when you see like Mizonot or egg, you put egg. No, because in this case, all the halot that you are white.
Yeah, but you see also that the texture is completely different. Like mamash, like, but again, you're right. You're going to tell me it's mamash sweet. Saying if they don't put sugar whatsoever and they just put oil and eggs.
The halot are white. Eggs, oil, sugar. So it's Mizonot basically.
Right. You have to see. Okay. You have to see how much is the thing.
I mean, I know people, they do only on Shabbat and then they eat challah.
Oh, yeah, that's what they do. Okay, let's see. We're going to speak about now burekas. So the correct blessing for burekas is mirabin mizunot, whether they are filled with cheese, potato, spinach, or meat. Now the question is why? We brought down, very good. Because if you remember, we brought down that technically speaking, if it's going to be made out of especially this is a pocket. But we said that the same halacha applies even to lachmajin that's not a pocket. Meaning, the first tnai, right, was the aruch. And the aruch said that's opinion A, if you remember. And that was what? That was a pocket, a kis. Because a kis is a pocket. So that's going to become mizunot. But there was a machloket. What happens if it's salty?
What?
Meaning, like a calzone. Salty, meaning it's not sweet, it's salty. So, for example, cheese, right, or spinach, or meat, right, or potatoes, it's salty, it's not sweet. So we brought down, it was a machlok between the Magen Avraham and the Taz, right, that according to the Taz, it's still mizunot, and according to the Magen Avraham, only if it's sweet does it become mizunot. Then we spoke about lachmajin, right? No, so we said that Rav Ovadia Yosef Paskins like the Magen Avraham that if it's salty, it's also a problem. Yeah, that's the Shita Rav Ovadia. On what? Empanadas, exactly. So if it wasn't, if it was no, because again, because that's not only just that's going to be a pocket, it's in the dough. Meaning the dough also is going to be a different taste.
You don't have to
You're right, 100%. But no, because it's but then it's 2 shitot out of 3. We already brought down in Beki'im BaHalacha in one of the first days that there's 3 opinions, and each one of them by itself makes it mizunot. But the more opinions that you have, it makes it 100% mizunot. So it was like baklawa. The baklawa was all 3. It's a filling, and remember, the filling doesn't have to be a pocket, even if it's going to be on top, like the machamajin, that's called a filling, right? You've got the dough, right? And then you've got the crunchy. So the baklawa is all 3. So now why is it so important to know when it's 1, 2, or 3? Because if it's all 3, so then you would make a mizunot in the middle of the Seudah. Because it's no doubt, it's 100% mizunot. So instead, that means, so here, you're right, even if it's going to be, if you're going to tell me that it's going to be, let's say, the empanadas or whatever it is, and it's going to be, so then you're going to have filling plus dough. That's 2 out of the 3. But if you're going to tell me that the filling is salty, so then it's not filling, right? Because it's salty. It has to be a sweet filling. That's because they spoke about almond paste, or they spoke about, there was a stiran shulchan aruch. Okay, that's how they learned it up. So let's see the footnote.
Yesterday we talked about why would it be a motzi? Why would you do a motzi on lahmacun but not on a single slice of pizza like from Sineshina?
So it all depends is the dough already partially baked? Is the dough partially baked or not? Meaning when they put the meat, they put the meat when it's raw dough, or it's partially baked, and then they put the meat. Because just like pizza, we said from the store, from Amnon's Pizza or something, obviously Amnon's Pizza, they're probably doing it in the dough. But if it's a regular pizza, right, regular dough, and right, exactly, they bake it first and then they put it, so then it's hamotzi. Because if it's already baked first, any slice, even one slice, that's 100% hamotzi, according to everybody. Already you have Rav Ovadia and yeah, it depends on the dough. That's why you say, yeah. Lahmacun is usually made like that, right? It's not made when it's raw dough. Now, the only question is, what's in the dough? You understand? And again, that's why I'm saying, I don't know. If you take the lahmacun here and you take off the top layer, again, you're going to tell me that it probably...
Because it's very...
Yeah? You think so?
It's not like a fuego, like you do like this, and it goes out. It's really in the dough, the meat.
Really? It doesn't just come off?
It has to.
I think it's on top.
First of all, you have to turn the box ingredient of the dough.
They'll tell you the dough separately? Yeah,
Yeah, in the box, on the pack.
Okay, he's gonna look. We'll have to find out. I told him the lachabra, or again here it said that there's one type of lahmacun in New York made that it's mizunot, but he told me that it's not New York made, so I don't know. It says here. It is New York?
I don't know. I know the kibbutz for sure it comes from.
Okay, so you have to check that. It says here in the bottom of page 18, in any case, lahmacun commonly marketed in the New York area requires the blessing of Borei Minim Mizunot. See Halacha Brura, page 486. I checked it up. I didn't really understand what he wanted from that Halacha Brura, but I don't know. That's what he's quoting here. So I guess, I don't know, maybe it's the dough is 100% Mizunot. Again, but I don't know how it's, those things you have to check each one. Where is it made? What's it made? How's it made? You understand? Like it's very, very, he just sent me Rav Bitan a whole tshuva about Rav Bitan. He's the one in the offer. And he just sent me a whole tshuva about this type of bread and I don't know what. And Bekhisanin. And I wanted to look it up. Because I didn't understand what he wanted exactly, but I have to check it up. But let's see. Afterwards, maybe we'll see what his kavanah was.
I thought even if it's salty and filled, once it's filled, it's going to be...
No, so that's why we said the pizza, the heter, or not the heter, the shita of Rabbi Zion Basholon of David Yosef that made a mezonot was only because when it gets baked, it gets absorbed in the dough. So then it's a din in the dough, because in the dough, any type of a thing in the dough is already good. But if it's mitzad the filling has to be sweet.
No, but when you took the same dough, the pizza,
yes,
and you fill it up, and you close, and
yes,
in the oven, it's hamotzi.
Of course. According to Rav David Yosef, then you're right. It's also mizunot, 100%. Because again, but it's not because of the. But there, one more time, there's three opinions. Of course, Rav David Yosef argued on his father. You remember he said that was the only halacha, that his father forced him to write Amotzi. The only one. I don't remember the Shita of Rav Mazuz, but I know Rav Ben Sion was like Rav David Yosef. Meaning Rav David Yosef was like Rav Ben Sion. That is mizunot. That it gets absorbed. It's absorbed. Doesn't matter. No, yeah, because again, remember, we're talking about dough. We're not talking about filling. If it's filling, no, but it's not meaning the filling, it's meaning the dough. Meaning even a calzone, the reason if they would say it's mizunot, it's not because of the filling, it's because of the dough. That it gets absorbed in the dough. Absorbed in the dough. In the dough. Exactly, in the dough. It's not in the filling. Right, exactly, because the filling has to be sweet. Remember, they pass like Magen Avraham.
With the raw dough.
Yes, 100%. 233 footnote says the reason for the ruling is that the dough itself is not ordinary bread dough. It contains high percentage of oil or margarine. Therefore, even without the fact that the product is baked with a filling, it's patah Bekhisanin according to opinion B. The filling itself may not qualify, right? As explained above in Halacha 16, that was because of the sweet and salty. This is the ruling of the Or Letzion of the Piskei Teshuvot. Fine. Halacha Kav Gimel. Okay, 23. Right? Bread dough with sesame seeds. A baked product containing a great deal of sesame seeds is still considered ordinary bread, as long as it's not sweetened. It requires amotzi mikad hamazon. It makes no difference whether sesame seeds cover the loaf surface or they're mixed into the dough itself. If there's such an abundance that the flavor of the flour is not noticeable, then it would not be considered, right, bread. Okay, that means mamash, you have to have a lot, obviously. And it's mean like mamash, a huge amount. Okay, 234. This is the ruling of the Rishon LeZion. He's citing the Mishnah Berurah. This appears to be a weak proof, since that ruling might be correct only according to the Ramah. According to Maran, it might be that if the flavor in the sesame is noticeable in the dough, it's no longer considered bread. This matter needs more research. So wow, so you see, he's saying tzarich iyun. We don't have enough on this, so it's not that simple. Meaning, if it's mamash, but for sure, he's saying at the beginning, sesame seeds will never change it into mizonot unless it's mamash in the dough so much that you don't. Which one? Why sesame?